what is Dead Cells? You say,
Mm.
you ask, you say, hey, what is Dead Cells? And I go, a Dead Cells? Dead Cells is a roguelike Metroidvania 2D action platformer.
Ooh,
And then you
ooh.
say, nay, donk, don't go any further. I don't like these types of games. Roguelites make me frustrated, and Metroidvania games are so old and boring. I like my graphics to go into multiple dimensions. And I say this to you,
Who
kind
are you
sir or
talking
madam,
to?
give it a chance, because Dead Cells is absolutely fucking fantastic. It is all of the things I said when you put a classification on it, but it is an incredibly well balanced, well animated, beautiful game that has great use of color and environmental storytelling. The action is tactile and instantaneous and super fun. It just feels good. On top of that, this game came in early access about a year ago. When it came out, it was already phenomenal. It was already good in its early access day one release. But Motion Twin, the developers of this game, spent the entire year improving it, balancing it, adding content to it, and continually just like you could tell they love this game as much as their fans do. And they put a ton of work into it. And recently they came out with the 1.1 release, which added even more stuff to it. So you ask now, with all of this being said, what is it like to play Dead Cells?
Yeah.
And the actual experience is you're a guy banished to like kind of a purgatory type of thing, and he's being held by this king. And this king is like kind of keeping you in check, and you're trying to get through like traverse through the world and by going to different stages, and you can kind of pick your own path depending on what doors you want to go through. And the goal is to defeat his guardian and ultimately kill him. But the way the game plays is that you're collecting this kind of currency or XP called cells. And those cells can be used to upgrade your character. So as you're playing through, every time you get through a level, you can bank those cells into your own character's ability, which allows you to unlock new weapons, new passive abilities, carrying capacities for like your money and other things that you just unlock as kind of as you go. But every time you do that, it makes the game like that much easier. But the game keeps getting harder. So as you keep getting better, the game is like kind of leveling up, because when you first start, you're only going to get to like the first or second stage, and you're going to die, and you're going to have to start over.
Is it really
And then-
hard?
But then your character's a little bit better. But then your character's just a little bit better because you made it past the first level. And then the next time you get like to the second level and almost beat it. And then you finally get to the third level. And eventually you get far enough in the game where your character's kind of buffed. And then you beat it. You finally beat the game. And you're like, holy shit, I'm a god. And then you realize there's 5 fucking difficulties. And you kind of have to go back at it. Now you would say,
You don't have
nay,
to.
and you would be wrong. Hold on. You would be wrong. Is that, well, isn't that boring just playing the game on a harder mode? And I say to you, no. And here's why.
Why?
Because the game procedurally builds its levels, every time you play it, it's a little bit different. It's the same art assets, but the structure of the world changes.
Mm.
And so, although the art looks similar, you're back in that world, and it's, you don't know where anything is. You don't know where the enemies are going to be. And sometimes the enemies can be like placed in ways that are really difficult. And other times they're placed in ways that you could just kick their ass. But most of the time they're placed in ways that make you kind of think as a puzzle game. And it's fucking really good. And it gets on my rating scale,
Yeah.
a perfect 10 out of 10.
What? No, it's out of 5, Don. Come on, get with it.
It's a
Is that
10 out of
5?
10 divided by 2 or multiplied by 0.5.
So it's a 5
10 out of 10
5.
times 0.5. So the 1.1 release came out back in, I think, December or November,
Mm.
and added a bunch of shit and rebalanced some things. So I started playing it again, and just to see what was new. And yeah, it's great. They made the game more accessible to new players. Like the normal mode is much easier than it used to be, and they ramped up the higher difficulties to make them even harder than they used to be. And so they created like a much bigger kind of challenge curve, which I think is awesome.
Well,
But yeah,
Damage.
I'm
but
interested
it
in
is a
playing it.
really good game. And the more I play it, the more I can't help but say that it deserves that it won Action Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards. And you can look at it and go, It's not AAA. It's not huge, but man, is everything in this game is just done exceptionally well. From the weapon design, the way the weapons feel, how many different weapons there are, they all feel legitimate. They're all usable. Like Dancing, here's a good example of why this game is so awesome. Dancing Ninja and I were talking about this game the other day, and he's like, "I hate this weapon. Like it sucks." And I'm like, "No, dude. Like if you play to that weapon's strong suit, it's great because the weapon that he hated is a weapon that I beat the game with the first time I beat the game with.
What
because
weapon is it?
The strategy is the symmetrical lance, but he hates it, but it's still viable. Like you don't have to like it, but every weapon in the game you can beat the game with. So Dead Cells, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, 30 out of 30, whatever you want scale you want to use. It's all of them out of all of them.
Wowzers.
The whole Metroidvania genre has been trying to make games that are as good as Castlevania or as good as Metroid, and they're always like shooting to try to just make that game. And the way I described Dead Cells to someone was Dead Cells is the first game to look at the Metroidvania genre, and instead of trying to make Castlevania or make Metroid, they made something better than both of them. Like they were the first ones that like thought outside of the box, took the Metroidvania like world and moved beyond everybody just trying to make Castlevania. Right? Like and they really did something special with this game.
That was a lovely review, Donk.
With a 10 out of 10, I'm going to go pick that shit up.
Dead Cells could have maybe more story. It could have room to improve, but what it delivers, like what it's trying to do, what it's trying to be, it does that almost perfectly. You can play other games in that world, Binding of Isaac, other stuff that's like, roguelites, but the thing that you will keep coming back to is just how damn clean Dead Cells is. Like Hollow Knight, it's a great game, art's awesome, but the gameplay itself is not up to the level of this. So maybe better storytelling, but not as good of a game.
What about Celeste?
Great puzzling, but lacking in depth. It's great environmental puzzling, but it lacks depth, and you're just doing the same shit over and over and over again in Celeste. And it's well done and probably a better story, but I don't think it's as well rounded as Dead Cells.
Last week when we went to the New York Video Game Awards, this game won the Off-Broadway Award for Best Indie Game, and the game developer was there at the show to receive it. Would you like to watch his speech?
Come on, get this done. And get this award.
Congratulations. Hey, how are you doing? Well, thank you very much for the award. I have to say I'm not the best at speeches, but yeah, on the behalf of the whole team, thanks. And yeah, it kind of, well, I'm not good to it. No, that's really nice thing to have. I mean, mainly because of the way we work, kind of listening to each other and a lot of the community, because the game was kind of built with a lot of feedbacks from the community. So, well, thanks to everyone. That's all I can say. Well, thank you. And I would like to thank my cat, because my cat is awesome.
He'd like to do what?
He thanked his cat
because his cat is awesome.
He was definitely.
And
you could
I
tell
liked
like
how
it
he
took
came
a lot.
all the way from France to go to this show.